So yeah, carrying on from part one, people didn't even know anything about ADHD. They thought that ADHD people were those jumping up and down on the desks, and you know, I mean, I had struggle focusing in class because I'd be so bored, unless it was a topic I was interested in, which is typical of ADHD. But I couldn't be ADHD because I wasn't I wasn't clotheslining other kids in the middle of the classroom. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the only time that things got physical with me and other kids was when I'd had enough of the bullies that kept going on, and there might be once every 3 to 4 months, but you know, there might be 2 or 3 punches thrown or something, right? Actually, a bit more once they got down, but you know that didn't happen. That didn't happen since nearing the end of high school, you know. So, but apart from that, you know, I just played bull rush and um, uh, rugby and all these other things most lunchtimes. And when I wasn't, I was walking around just talking to people. You know, walking around talking to all these different people. And the ones I had the longest conversations with, looking backwards, that I had frequently long conversations with, were all those who were deemed as weird or different. And the other ones were just like being nice and polite and, hey, how's it going? And like a 2 or 3 minute, maybe even 5 minute conversation. But just, hey, how's it going? Shake hands and, you know. But then all the, like these kids that were like me, and some of them had glasses and were like, you know, and some couple of guys were like the librarians. They were like the in charge of the library, and people called them like antisocial and whatever. But whenever they bumped into me, it would be like a long ass conversation, unless I was on the way to class or rugby training. But apart from that, which they knew the times were, it would just be a long ass conversation, and they were like, "Oh yes, I've just been chilling out in the library, you know." I remember going to some like drinking parties with them when I got to my 20s, but not like heaps. But I remember like 2 or 3, and then one of them said that they just wanted to go do other things, and I was like, oh, okay, it's all good. 2 or 3 times, that is. So yeah, with ADHD, we were just raised up that they were just like that. Like if you put an ADHD kid in the classroom, and they weren't on meds, they'll be, you know, basically, yeah, jumping on top of the desks, and they'll be picking the desk up above their head, and they'll be, you know, tackling kids in the class. And you know, people thought these things, like, you know, and then if they were just staring off into space, or they were just whatever, like me, they were either on their meds or they just were dumb and couldn't pay a focus. But I was staring off into space because I was not very, you know, that's how, well, I just found it really hard to focus on topics I wasn't interested in. But it was like very, very, very hard. But you know, there was times when I stayed in after school for an hour or something because I failed school, and I didn't play rugby in the last 2 years of high school because I was paranoid, because I thought they'd own up the whole year. But you know, like, I was just really upset, and I thought that you couldn't get a job unless you graduated high school. So I do believe that, because now they come to the knowledge that, you know, all the science and all the doctors are now saying, yeah, if you have 400 autistic people in one room, the reality is that you're probably also looking at 300 of those 400 not only have autism, but they also have ADHD. And looking at these ADHD characters, I got a lot in common with them. People say that that we're compulsive liars or whatever, but I just believe in always telling the truth, because the truth shall set you free. The truth shall set you free, and you got nothing to hide if you're operating in truth. You know what I'm saying? If you're doing everything by the rules, then you got nothing to hide. Sometimes the rules actually go against you because, obviously, if the rules were like prejudice against people who had autism and ADHD, I wouldn't listen to the rules. But there's a whole bunch of invisible rules of how you're supposed to act and how you're supposed to be that's impossible for me to follow. And then there's these other ones that I keep learning about that I didn't even know existed. So I've given up on that, given up on that a few years ago. But at the same time, it's like, then there's the literal laws of the rules. I just follow them. I don't break them, and I always tell it how it is. That way, I never have any fear of exposure because they're going to be, we exposed you. See, you said this in this situation and you said this in that situation, but you didn't say it in this other situation. In this other situation, you kept quiet. The reason why you kept quiet is because you would change in that situation. I was like, no, I just, that third situation told about it. I was just chilled out and no one asked me that question. Nobody asked me about these things. That's why I didn't say anything about it, because nobody asked me about it, and I was just relaxed and letting people do them. And then you find yourself being asked those questions from those people, and you just give the same answers as you would in the other situations. And providing they're not against you, because if they're against you, then you're like, well, I've got to do what I've got to do to protect myself and adjust to the situation. So that's what I think about. I think and how Forrest Gump, he goes from one thing to the next. He's like, oh, yeah, I've got that. I'll go and do this. I'll go and do that. And go and do this. Go and do that. And they got the feather floating in the wind. Yeah, now they're saying 3 in every 4 autistic people are not just autistic, but they're also ADHD. Now they're thinking about, shall we change the term ADHD and change the term autism because they're so similar. Yeah, but there are some distinct differences. Like ADHD people they feel more accomplished under structure, but they have an inability to maintain structure. So it's best for their creative juices to be flowing and going all the time, but also to have, when they get with someone that's very routine or structure orientated, how things can fall apart because of the fact of so many things going on at the same time, and people think they were untrustworthy because how come you don't just stick at the one thing like everyone else? How come you have to be doing 5 things? How you must be half-assed. And it's like, oh no, it's just like, you've figured it out and you're on to the next one and the next one and the next one. But because the society says that's wrong, but then you got people who are heavily structure-based and detail-oriented, to the point where it's like they got 2 or 3 interests. They're hardcore on that all the time, and they're the experts at that. And that's usually autistic people. And I believe that the autistic people that were higher support needs today, actually in the hunter-gatherer times, they would have been the ones alerting the tribe because they would have felt the needs and they would have felt the feelings of these saber-toothed lions coming and all this type of thing. And they would have been like, oh my god. But they'll be paralyzed from feeling so much emotion, but it will wake up the ADHD and even some neurotypicals, or what's now known as neurotypicals, and that would have been there functioning in the tribe. That would have been there functioning in the tribe because they could feel it from that far away. And then it's like, what are we going to do? Oh my god. And then the ADHD is like, let's go on the fly, let's go. And then they just adapt, and yep. See you.